A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of everything sucking. COVID is in full swing, everyone is depressed and angry, and two eccentric Emerson College alumni bring forth a passion project years in the making, a multiversal exploration of trauma, identity, existentialism, and, well, everything. I mean, it's literally called Everything Everywhere All at Once. But at its core, this is a story about family and the choices we make. This movie is rated R, and thus both it and the discussion thereof may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways that George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today from across the galaxy is...
Shamila Karunakaran.
And Grady Smithy.
So, we actually have to start off with a bit of an oopsie-doodle on my part. And yes, that is the technical term we will be using. This is actually not a degree 5 as I thought it was when I rolled the chance cube last time. I put it under degree 5 because the directors slash writers, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, are on the production team as directors for the upcoming Star Wars series Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law, but in early compilings of the docket, I completely neglected the man, the myth, the legend, the utter icon, James Hong, who has not only been in Star Wars, he has been in 3 separate Star Wars projects. He was in the Clone Wars as Endante. I hope that's how the character's pronounced. I have not watched the Clone Wars in a while. As Morrigan in Star Wars Rebels, and as the Elder in Star Wars Vision. So, yeah, James Hong. Absolute legend. He is a degree 3, and we owe him our respect. And oopsie-doodle. But I'm just happy Everything Everywhere is on this list, because I think there's something to be said for Everything Everywhere having sort of a similar narrative to Star Wars, because this was a sci-fi franchise that has a lot of influences from Asian films that got really popular because of word of mouth. It shares at least one accolade in the form of the Best Editing Oscar at their respective Oscar ceremonies. And it's just a really good film. Like, everybody was talking about this. I don't trust anybody who doesn't like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Your new litmus test.
Yeah. So, I actually saw this movie on a whim. I knew absolutely nothing about it in theaters. There is a independent sort of niche cinema that shows, older films and indie films and that sort of thing. And that cinema is close to where I got my taxes done. So I came out of getting my taxes done and I'm like, I have some time to kill. And what's in the movie theater? So I went in, I knew basically nothing about it, and I then proceeded to have my mind blown for the next 2.5 hours. So then I was, going on my phone like, oh my god, this movie is amazing! Into the social media sphere and hopefully getting the word of mouth out to others. But how did you two come to Everything Everywhere?
Well, I'm on Tumblr, and the first sort of interviews with, Michelle Yeoh, she has a really fantastic quote here somewhere. When she had read the script for Everything Everywhere All at Once, she thought this was something that she had been waiting for a long time. This was going to give her an opportunity to show her fans, her family, her audience, what she was capable of. So she got a chance to be funny, to be real, to be sad. Finally, someone understood that she could do all those things. But I didn't really, actively started trying to watch it in theaters because, well, yeah, auditory processing issues. When you don't have closed captioning in movie theaters, it makes it very hard to process what's going on.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
But then I saw this TikTok of Supernova talking about queer Asian rep in movies, and one of the last ones she talked about was Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then I decided maybe I should go have a look, and then I proceed to have my mind blown. Even though I could barely follow along, but considering this is a movie made for like neurodivergent people.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I saw the trailer and I was like, wait a minute, Michelle Yeoh and Ki Hai Kwan? Okay. And I went and saw it, and I almost never go to something more than once in the theater anymore. I saw it 5 times during its original theatrical run because I was like, okay, am I doing anything today? No? Nothing on the schedule? I'm going.
I'm sure A24 is very thankful for your contribution.
And yeah, just blew me away. And I have been dealing with depression in one form or another for most of my life. And so seeing a movie that grasped that, yeah, it's something that's corrosive, it's something that you're going to be fighting against endlessly, but it can also be kind of ridiculous too, with the bagel. I was like, this movie gets me.
So would you say you were sucked into a bagel?
No, but I have circled around it more than once.
God damn, I love Stephanie Hsu. I got really lucky. I got to see her on Broadway as Karen the computer wife in SpongeBob the Musical.
Aww.
And she was so funny there, and she's so funny in this movie. I'm happy for all the awards that Everything Everywhere received, but if there was one thing I wasn't
She was
all that
wrong.
thrilled about, it was
She
that
was.
I was pulling for Angela Bassett, but if you were going to award a supporting actress performance from Everything Everywhere, I feel like it should have been Stephanie Hsu and not Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, she is wonderful in this movie. We will get into it, but it feels a lot like this was a legacy award for her.
Mm-hmm. Like, she does deserve an Oscar, but this was not the movie for it.
For me, it felt like this was her equivalent of Sean Connery getting the Oscar for The Untouchables when he had turned in performances so much better previously, but had never gotten them. And the most charitable
Yeah, like I said, career.
Yeah, the most charitable interpretation I have in this is the Academy figured at some point Stephanie Hsu is going to give us something even better, and we can make it up to her then.
Well, I sincerely hope so. I'm very excited for everything Stephanie Hsu has done so far this year. I loved her in American Born Chinese. It was very fun to watch her and Michelle Yeoh have a very different dynamic. Have you seen that yet, Grady?
Not yet. I'm planning on seeing it soon.
Well, you better see it soon because you don't know now when Disney's going to pull something off Disney Plus, even if it's really, really good.
You're sadly correct in that.
Hashtag save Willow.
Mm-hmm. But I'm very much looking forward to her movie with Ashley Park, Joyride.
That looks hilarious, and I plan on being able to.
But the other thing that I think bugs me about Jamie Lee Curtis, because Deirdre feels like the most tangential character in this story, because at the core, this is a family story, and to steal from Jamie Lee Curtis, it's about generational trauma. So, all these different layers. We have Evelyn's relationship to her father. We have the way Evelyn and Waymond both relate to Joy. The way Joy relates to her entire family. It's so good. I kind of joked that 2022 was the year of generational trauma between Encanto getting super big, even though it came out in 2021.
And
we also had
Turning
Red.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to talk about our feelings. We all need therapy. I'm so glad that this movie exists and is stepping up things, because I did encounter that same quote that you read off, Shamila, because as I was doing my prep for this episode, in addition to rewatching Everything Everywhere, I watched the amazing Be Kind Rewind video on Michelle Yeoh's Oscar journey, and it's like, God damn, I need to get on watching more Michelle Yeoh stuff, because other than this and her, flagship franchise, the thing I mostly knew her from was being absolutely iconic as the soothsayer in Kung Fu Panda 2.
Well, I mostly knew her from some of her earlier Hong Kong films, because my dad was a big Jackie Chan fan, and some of her earlier work with like Michelle Yeoh. I did get to see, like, maybe back in the aughties when I was a very tiny kid. And then I saw her in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It's really interesting to see how much of her career has intersected with Jackie Chan, because I'm sure you guys know the story that this was originally written as something for Jackie Chan, and he decided not to do it, which I'm thankful for, because I didn't read into all the details of it. I try to limit my parasocial relationshiping, but apparently he has a very contentious relationship with his daughter who is queer, so
Yes.
yeah, that would have been odd to play out on the screen. But it's interesting because I remember reading a story about Michelle Yeoh said after she got Everything Everywhere, she called Jackie Chan to tell him about it. And he's like, they offered that to me first, right? They go back a long time, so I assume that was playful ribbing. That was a joke between the two of them.
Maybe?
It's interesting to look at how this script evolved, knowing that it started as Jackie Chan, and I'd say this is my favorite kind of feminist film, and one of the solid rebuttals to people who are like, oh, so you think only women can make feminist stuff? I'm like, no, this is a great way to make feminist stuff if you're a guy. You're making something that's a character first and foremost, and then you let the gender enhance it, because this is a story that could work with either a man or a woman in the lead role, but once you add Michelle Yeoh to it, you add in the specificity of what it means to be a woman, and it's so much better for it.
Mm-hmm. And I love how she, gets to be a mess in a lot of different universes. It's like, there's this specific scene with Alpha Waymond saying that you can either live up to your potential, or you can just stay here. And she just goes, nope, I'm lying here.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely relatable. And it's especially interesting to look at that in terms of, we're at a point when every character must be cinnamon roll, too good for this earth, too pure. Waymond. It's Waymond.
Definitely.
Or it's an absolute war criminal whom the fans will say, no, they're actually cinnamon roll, too good for this world, too pure. Kylo Ren! So I liked how full of characters this was that are a mix of good and bad things. Like, even Waymond, who is, yes, cinnamon roll, too good for this world, too pure, but we've seen how that has negatively impacted his life and his relationship with Evelyn and Gong Gong. Ke Huy Quan, it's so hard not to like him. He's just amazing.
And considering he's struggled for the last 2 decades, even trying to find work, we knew him mostly from the Goonies and from and that short round from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And in that specific time period, it was really, really hard. Well, every decade before that was really hard to find any roles that weren't yellow face or whitewashing. But I did read this article where he almost lost his health insurance before he signed off to Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it was kind of his last shot at his acting dream before he was gonna give up, and this was sort of his Hail Mary.
He chose well.
This is actually another point in the camp of watch American Born Chinese, because he has a very meta monologue about that in one episode. Just sidetrack a little. In American Born Chinese, which is very little like the graphic novel by Jin Wen-yang, but he plays an actor who got really popular on a TV show where he played a racial stereotype. And then when he gets asked about it and what he wanted to do after the show, he's like, well, I wanted to play the hero, but all that was really offered to me was more of the same. And so I didn't leave acting, I left Hollywood. And I'm like, oh, my heart.
That's just gut-wrenching.
Yeah. Moment of silence.
It's really hard to talk about this movie, though, on some level, because it's everybody knows it. Basically everybody likes it, so what's left to say that hasn't been said?
I've got something.
Well,
laundry and taxes is the most romantic line ever.
And actually, I did have a thing about that. The actual dub, they didn't translate it quite correctly. in like one of the versions there, the actual version is in another life I would still choose to do laundry and taxes with you, because that's pretty much Wayman saying that he's gonna give up that he would still give up that capitalist idealist rich person success story and just be with Evelyn, because that's all he wants.
It's much more powerful that way, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to share the first thing that I noted, because one of the things I love is every time I see this, I notice at least one thing that I didn't pick up on before. And this time, one of the two things that happened was something that had been in a previous thing, and then I found I noticed something new about it. The very first shot is a reflection, a looking back on the time when the three of them, Wayman, Evelyn, and Joy were together and having a good time watching whatever it was they were watching and laughing. And then suddenly she's gone. They have literally been depicted losing their joy. Which I think I noticed that the second time I saw it. The thing that I picked up on this time is just before it cuts to the modern day where it's the apartment where Joy isn't there anymore, Evelyn puts her hand over Joy's mouth. And Evelyn not letting Joy be who she truly is was one of the main reasons why Joy has been driven away. I actually had to pause it and sit and process for a while before I could continue watching it, because my mind was exploding.
That's the kind of thing that this movie will do to you.
Gotta love him for it.
And it's really funny and really hard to believe that this came from the same guys who made the Turn Down for What video.
And Swiss Army Man.
Like, I have gone to the Turn Down for What video on YouTube, and I swear to God, half the comments now are like, Oscar-winning directors! But the Daniels, they are so good as screenwriters and as directors, because they do such a good job at switching between all these different styles of genre within this film.
Yeah.
And you never lose the sense that it's them.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a sense, I'm both terrified and fascinated to see what they bring to Star Wars when Skeleton Crew does drop, because I'm worried that Disney will have taken their whole personality from them, or
oh no,
maybe they'll be able to push through regardless.
Fingers crossed.
Here's hoping.
There is something kind of Star Warsy about one family's drama containing the fate of the whole universe.
Just a tad, yeah.
Yep, just a bit. But in this situation, the child is the Darth Vader, only not because...
Generational trauma.
Generational trauma. I mean, we don't get to see the full scale of what Joe Tapaki has done in other universes. And I'm not sure, part of me wonders how much of it is actually true, what Alpha Wayman tells Evelyn, and how much of it is, misunderstandings of some kind. But then again, we do see her literally turn a guy into confetti.
And she does that too.
And then beat another one up with dildos.
I think maybe it's a bit of both with Alpha Wayman and with Joe Butapaki. There was this really great post about coding language and switching. Obviously in the family there's different languages being used, with Gong and Evelyn. They're using Cantonese, and Wayman is using Mandarin, and Evelyn is that linchpin connecting all of those languages, including English, so that they somewhat understand each other. But once she's gone, once they don't have her again, then the misunderstandings, and it's just a barrier between them now.
Also, Wayman wasn't exactly wrong, even if he was mistaken from a certain point of view about Evelyn having been murdered in all the different universes. It's just, we see the conference room timeline, Evelyn, Jobu Tapaki does the tap on the forehead thing to get her to open her mind to all the universes, and she dies. I think, especially because there is a line that she has about how she's been looking through all the different verses for a version of her mother that can finally understand, is she's been going to thousands of universes, she's been trying to enlighten her mother, and her mother just dies each time rather than understand her. And yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I feel that, like, that is definitely part of the queer narrative that resonates. It's like, Joy being gay is a huge part of the story. And, I mean, I've been very fortunate that at every stage of developing and figuring out my identity, my family's like, yeah, okay, cool. But I have to imagine that in the same way coming out was probably hard, because remember, Jobu's experienced every reality she's ever lived, so there's probably been more iterations of that same traumatic event of coming out than she probably could handle. So, this is not to excuse mass murder or anything, but, like, God, what would that do to a person's mind?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that it will convince you, that it could convince you that nothing matters, so, hey, just do whatever.
And then there's no consequences for that until she realizes, is that all there is to it? And then cue the existential crisis.
I think that also might be part of why we had to go all the way out to the hot dog finger universe, and then we find an Evelyn
with Deirdre
that is also queer. And the hot dog fingers thing, it freaked me out so much. It took me so long. It took me like 8 months before I could eat a hot dog again.
Oh.
Can't blame you.
I mean, I know hot dogs are terrible, but, like, they're also delicious.
Yep. And I do love the fact that the hot dog finger universe is the key to success, ultimately. Because she's trying to tap into a universe where she'll get useful skills, and she completely fails. But she fails in a way that helps set her on the path to her ultimate success.
I'm sorry, it's just, I'm still thinking now about the visual of the hot dog fingers.
No.
Like, the 2001.
Also, how it translates into the regular reality, and she's going like T-Rex arms.
Oh, no.
Also,
There's a reason it's under the Nightmare Fuel page.
Oscar-winning movie.
And then there are all the scenes with Rakuni.
I love Rakakuni. I love the detail that he's voiced by Randy Newman.
That was so perfect. And he gets a song. They got a Randy Newman song in this thing.
And I love the implication that Evelyn basically spoke that universe into existence because she pronounced Ratatouille.
Because she just can't get names right.
Somewhere out there in the multiverse, there's now a version of Joy that's Juju Chewbacca and is going around like a Wookiee going, Rawr. I can't do the Wookiee sound like Mike can.
Yeah, going to the silly raccoon on the head universe was one of the things that she had to do in order to unlock the capacity for empathy that she had been keeping locked down, which is another one of the building blocks of success that comes from an abject failure. And I know I've been going back. Well, I went there. I've gone back there. It's one of the things that really speaks to me in the movie. That sorry.
And it's another Star Wars point. You don't win by punching, you win with familial love. You win with a hug.
Which was also a main point in Encanto, weirdly enough.
And, Turning Red had a hug in, like, the spirit realm, I think.
Yeah, they did.
We're gonna save the world with hugs. I approve of this plan. I love when they're pulling her out of the bagel. It's this big dramatic thing of Evelyn pulling, and then Gong Gong is pulling Evelyn, and then Wayman's just kind of like, and I am here too!
It's like in that one Justice League
It's
episode
so
where
where
the Flash is being pulled into the Speed Force, and you've got Wonder Woman grabbing hold of him, and Superman, and all the really powerful ones, and then the linchpin, the one at the end, the one that's going to provide the extra power that gets everyone the additional strength to save the Flash. Batman, just a guy with stuff.
God. But it's so fun. And shout out to the visual effects team. They went so hard. And in any movie where James Cameron's Blueface was not in the picture, they would have won Best Picture. Or Best Visual Effects. I do not like Avatar. We will get to it someday.
But fun fact, like, all the VHS for this team were done by 9 people, and they were done by 7 people. So none of them actually went to school. They were friends who taught themselves with, like, tutorials they found online for free.
And it looks amazing.
You don't have to throw money at the screen.
I think a big part of that is also that. I mean, I think the editing is also a major part of why the effects look as good as they do, because a lot of the effects are, they're part of quick cutting or match cuts. It's all so good. We keep going around saying that it's so good. Like, I remember when I originally came out of the theater, my biggest nope had to do with Jenny Slate's character.
Oh, yeah.
Because originally they credited her as Big Nose, which, yikes, that is an anti-Semitic stereotype. And then they renamed her to Debbie the Dog Mom when it was pointed out that they'd done that. So, good on that. But then, like, the poor puppy!
Oh.
Like, you could tell that it was, a stuffed animal at certain points, but god damn, poor puppy. Puppy didn't ask to get dragged into a battle for the fate of the multiverse.
If you're gonna use an animal,
and then the puppy gets overshadowed by the butt plug fight.
I would like to apologize to
Oscar-winning
the people in the theater the second time I saw
fight.
this, because I started laughing so hard before it happened that I don't know if anyone within 20 feet of me could actually hear anything other than how much I was laughing at what was about to happen.
I mean, at least the dialogue leading up to the butt plug it's kind of superfluous, because it's just Waymond and Joy figuring out what we, the audience, already know.
Joy going, oh, he's gonna stick it up his butt, though.
I love...
Perfect line delivery. No notes.
I love all the weird shit. Like, wouldn't you have loved to be in the room with the Daniels as they're thinking, okay, what's weird stuff that we can have the actors do?
I kind of love
we
that
make
this was how...
eat chapstick.
Yes. Waymond is here
I kind of love how this was,
Waymond's here to eat chapstick and kick ass, and he just finished eating his chapstick.
There's ass. That is the kind of randomness that a neurotypical person cannot have. And I kind of love that Daniel Kwan figured out he had diagnosed ADHD through this. Especially since, like, he was writing Evelyn as having undiagnosed ADHD, and then he was looking up the symptoms, and then at 4 o'clock in the morning he says, oh, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like me headcanoning characters as autistic and then going through the symptoms of autism in people who are women or femme presenting. I'm like, oh, Oh. Oh!
Now everything makes sense.
Yep.
I'm not bad at being a person, I'm just autistic.
Exactly.
And there is a difference.
As a side note, I'd just like to say, as someone who works in IT, that I really appreciate that they call the universe where Jobu Tupaki came from the Alphaverse, because the alpha version of everything always has horrible, crippling bugs in it. You run the program and something goes horribly, horribly wrong.
They should have known they weren't the best universe when they didn't have any cows anymore.
Nope. And everyone was speaking English instead of speaking in Cantonese and Mandarin, which I found was interesting because English to them is very depersonalizing. So without Evelyn there as the linchpin, they're kind of not a family anymore.
Well, that's sad to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, assumed from the meta perspective it was so that whenever it's exposition, generally, it feels like the majority of the exposition comes in English.
It does. But more personal, more intimate moments are in.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not that's a commentary on, we can't expect the audience to be paying attention to this exposition and reading.
But if you are going with the use of English as depersonalizing, given the number of times either Gong Gong or Waymond has probably had to kill the version of Joy in a universe to cut Jobu Tupaki off from it, there's some really depressing implications there.
Going back to the language for a sec, a thought now crosses my mind. So I don't know if either of you have seen the Steven Spielberg West Side Story.
Yes.
I've seen parts of it, but not the full thing.
So Spielberg made a point that he did not want to subtitle the Spanish in English because he thought that would not be fair to the Spanish-speaking audiences.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that would mean that Spanish was lesser and it required translation. So he left everything unsubtitled. R.I.P. to the people with auditory processing disorders. But as I was sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, so why not have the English subtitled in Spanish and the Spanish subtitled in English?
I mean, there were, there's a couple of, smaller independent films that do that, but that's few and far in between. Yeah. Because you don't, with English as a universal language, you automatically assume that you're automatically going to understand it. But with the wide range of people in the audience and people whose first language isn't English, like my parents and my mother's side of the family, there's certain idioms and sayings that they are absolutely not going to get in English the way they would in their own native language.
I feel like if any film could have maybe pushed that into the mainstream, it could have been this one, given that it did so many other things. It popularized so many other things right now. We're in a madness of multiverses following everything everywhere, and it's still the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Across the Spider-Verse is a very close second.
I kind of love how, in Into the Spider-Verse, they reference bagels, and then we get the multiverse bagel. It's I don't know if it's manifesting something or if it's fair. It's a very fun coincidence, but I'm living for it.
Improper use of bagels.
I do not want to spoil Across the Spider-Verse, but there is an Everything Everywhere Easter egg in the movie somewhere.
I have the screenshot of it. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the off chance somebody listening to this podcast has not seen Across the Spider-Verse by that point.
Oh, on a side note, going back to the butt plug fight, you gotta love the fact that the first time we see the first guy who's going for the butt plug, his thing for activating his combat abilities is getting up on the photocopier and making a copy of his butt.
Foreshadowing! Yeah. Oh god, now I'm thinking about how much he must have been bleeding, because he did not end up with one of the tax butt plug trophies in his butt. He ended up with a bowling trophy in his butt. I'm like, Oh god, that had to hurt.
And no lube?
Yeah. Well, hopefully when he absorbed the
No
combat
lube.
skills, he also absorbed a really high pain tolerance.
We can only
Hopefully.
hope.
And thankfully that one guard
Another
absorbed
fun
pixelated
story.
nudity.
Jamie Lee Curtis kept one of those butt plug trophies, and she keeps it next to her
Oscar.
Oscar.
Rightfully so.
She has also given her Oscar they-them pronouns in honor of her daughter,
Nice.
Ruby.
Aw.
That's not... Jamie Lee Curtis is the ultimate ally mom. Like, you never doubt that she will go full Laurie Strode to protect her kids. And I appreciate that from her. Honestly, I think a lot of why Jamie Lee Curtis won the Oscar also had to do with how much of a cheerleader she was for Michelle Yeoh. Like, at every opportunity, she was so freaking hyped for Michelle. And on a level, yes, I relate to you, Jamie Lee Curtis. I am also very much in awe of Michelle Yeoh.
I kind of find it amazing that she's only the second woman of color to win the leading actress.
Halle
Oscars.
Berry was the first.
With Monsters Ball.
Yeah. And it was very nice of Michelle. She kept mentioning when she was on the awards circuit that she is not the first Asian woman to be nominated because Merle Oberon was nominated but was forced to hide her own Asian heritage.
Fun fact, she's actually of Sri Lankan descent, like me.
Cool.
And then I do know that there was another Japanese actress who won an Oscar.
Miyoshi Umeki
Yes.
won for Sayonara, and then a couple of years ago we had for Minari,
Yoon Yo-jung.
Yoon Yo-jung.
Yeah.
I'm happy for all of them. I'm happy that they are getting to be part of this moment that they're pushing
And it's practically
forward. And
practically most of James Hong's career in the making. Like, I remember this like during I think it was the SAG Awards, where
he mentioned he started in movies when people were doing yellowface.
Yes. Producers said the Asians were good enough and they were not box office. And now, look at them now.
Yep.
And we can only hope to continue this trend.
James Hong is so good in this movie. You almost kind of wish he could have gotten awards consideration too. I mean, aside from the BAFTAs being weird, Ke Huy Quan practically owned the award circuit,
Yes.
and he should have, so good for him. But, like, James Hong, you can see for a reason why people consider him a legend, especially when you consider how much of his performance is non-verbal.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of what he does is just in expressions and gesticulations and occasionally eating yogurt. And now that I'm realizing it, him eating the yogurt was probably the first sign that this was Alphaverse Gong Gong.
No, that one was our Gong Gong because he hadn't started building his mobile suit yet.
Yep.
Well, maybe he needed his sweet, sweet dairy first.
You need the energy.
Maybe that was how
Wait,
he got the
happened to
skills to
Jobu's
build the
pig?
mobile suit out of office
Did we ever see what
supplies.
happened to the pig?
I don't think we do.
There's a pig running around that IRS building forever now.
Well, I think it probably vanished like the wrestler outfit and any number of other things, like, you know, like the objects that you can't legally own in Texas.
You can
apparently.
say dildos, great.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just I live in Texas. They're illegal here. I thought I would slip in just a little bit of snark there.
You have my deepest sympathies for continuing to suffer under the reign of Greg Abbott.
Working on getting rid of him. One of these days. One of these days.
One of these days you'll get overthrown.
But we digress.
It is kind of interesting that it feels like they were really able to kind of make this film, I don't want to say timeless, but it does kind of feel like it could be at any point in the 2010s or the 2020s, what little we've done of it so far. I mean, other than the fact that they're not wearing masks, so it's not theoretically a COVID time.
Unless it's this is a universe where COVID does not. We can only hope.
Can I be there?
We wish.
I mean, as we're recording this, the wildfire smoke is going up and down the East Coast,
Oh, no.
and I'm like the only member of my household that has masks, because I've been masking on public transit and in public areas for the entirety of COVID, so I still had masks, and now I have to lend them to my housemates. existentialism
Mm.
setting in. I'm gonna go put everything on a bagel.
No, don't do that.
Eat your
We've
sorrows.
seen what happens when you do that.
No, like, I actually want a bagel. Oh, god damn it, I left my mini bagels at work.
Oh.
Never mind, no bagel.
Oh.
But if you put depression on a bagel, you can have depression anytime.
That is the line read of 2022 for me, though. It's bagel.
The number of times I just wrote
a
bagel in
single
my
word,
notes.
and Stephanie Hsu puts so much personality in it. And goddamn, the costuming in this movie is amazing.
So theatrical. Like half of like the Elvis suit. The Elvis suit. Oh my god.
The Elvis suit is amazing. I hate that this did not get an Oscar nomination for hair and makeup, and it went to the fucking whale.
Yeah, Jobu's final costume alone.
Like,
yes.
they put Jobu in her hair at one point across her forehead. All these different looks that help to build all these different characters, even though the actors' performances also make it so clear whenever we're seeing a different thing, and it can be as simple as the tilt of a head.
It just enhances it.
Yeah.
Have you seen Stephanie Hsu's her audition tape?
No.
Yeah, she's great. You should check it out.
Oh my god, it's so good. She came beyond prepared, and it's in places shockingly close to the final product. But, you know, she does little moments that are a little more fun, a little more quirky as she's like finding the character. But watching that audition, and you're like, and they wanted Awkwafina for this role.
Why when you have Stephanie Hsu?
Well, they didn't know.
Well, Awkwafina apparently dropped out for scheduling conflicts, so then they had to reopen it to casting, and all the better for it. There is not a single miscast actor in this entire production.
It's uncanny.
It's phenomenal.
Also, I think we need to throw some love to the people doing the set design, because in both iterations of the apartment that we see, the one in the main timelines where Evelyn and Waymond are married, and then in the one where Evelyn and Deirdre are together, it's the same apartment, but it looks entirely different, except that you can tell, if you look close, that this is not a happy home in any of the universes where we see it. And it's just from the lighting and the set design.
I truly did not notice that the Hot Dog Finger universe was the same apartment, because I was mostly... This did kind of take me out of the movie. It felt like the Hot Dog Finger universe did not really account enough for people having hot dogs for fingers in the changes to the world.
It was mostly a case of going with...
I guess the implication is that now we're making pianos and TVs and everything with our feet.
Yeah, the ankle...
And I'm just thinking about my poor little ankles that I can roll on flat surfaces.
Yeah,
I would be utterly useless in the Hot Dog Finger universe.
I hadn't picked up on the
unless
fact
you're like having fights with your feet.
I hadn't picked up on the fact that it was the same that it was the same laundromat until this time, when Deirdre walks up to Evelyn in the laundromat, and I was like, wait a minute. Just look really closely at the set design when they're in their apartment. Compare it with the set design in the main universe apartment. And I was like, oh my god, they did go there. It was another universe where you've got her married to somebody, living over a laundromat, and not happy.
Frickin' cinema, man.
Yeah.
I like the setup that they give us, this what the fuckery with Deirdre being Evelyn's hot dog finger partner, and then it takes a really long time for us to get to the reveal of Deirdre having her own crisis of being, in her own words, an unlovable bitch. Yeah. And, you know, that's another turning point for Evelyn, because I think part of it is her looking at Deirdre and like, oh, I do not want to be this person.
Yeah, but her having to be able to say, I love you and mean it.
Well, I think my favorite universe is actually the Rock universe.
The googly eyes on the Rock.
Yeah.
And I kind of love Ki Hui Kwan. He puts googly eyes as his accessories for every red carpet. I think at one point he put googly eyes on his Oscar at one point.
Good for him. And yeah,
and they were doing the bagel symbol at awards shows when they've won.
Aww.
Everything about this team, it's so sweet. Like, and Daniel Kwan wore a tuxedo version of Evelyn's Chinese New Year sweater to the Oscars. There's so much love for this movie that exploded into something I don't think anyone was expecting when they first set out to make it, but
it's a cultural phenomenon now. And I'm hoping to manifest this, but AFI's 100 films of all time. I'm hoping it gets there at one point.
Give it time.
I would be shocked if it does not. I don't know how often AFI updates it, but like I feel like, you know, Jobu Tupaki could end up on their, you know, greatest movie villains list, although I don't know if she would because she's not a villain, but then we'd get into the argument of, well, Darth Vader's on the list. Is Darth Vader a villain? Just to, you know, bring it back to Star Wars.
We'll stick with antagonists for now and see where that goes.
I will not object to anybody in this cast going into the Star Wars universe and being a Jedi or a Sith or whatever they feel like being.
Oh my god, yeah. Ki Hui Kwan. Let him have his moment. Let him have the lightsaber moment.
I kind of want to see him playing a smuggler that isn't old contact on.
I want Ki Hui Kwan to do whatever he wants to do, but I'd like to see him, you know, do a short round series.
No, there was this idea, if Harrison Ford were to pass the Indiana Jones franchise to someone, then Short Round could be the person to do that.
I'm not. Dial of Destiny is not really on my radar, partially because John Rhys Davies is still in it and still doing brownface.
Ugh.
But, you know, I would be interested in seeing Ki Hui Kwan team up with somebody to potentially do a short round series or even a short round special. Just something where he gets to come back to that character that was arguably his big break on his own terms. Because that's always my big thing. It's on his own terms. Like, when Ahmed Best showed up in The Mandalorian as Caloran Beck, I was so happy for him. And I was happy because he got to do it on his terms. But, like, I wouldn't ask him to do Jar Jar because I realize how much garbage happened to him as a result of Jar Jar. And, again, his own terms. It has to be him.
But I wish this character continues to flourish. Like, now that it's got this sudden reboot, give him decades. Give him James Hong's career.
May we be blessed with more from all of these actors for a very, very long time. James Hong is in his 90s and still going strong.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Oh, I just thought of something that I wanted to say. I love the fact that at the end, the philosophy that allows Evelyn to overcome the crisis that's going on and save her family is a combination of Joy's nihilism, her own feeling of nothing matters that she gets after she's enlightened, and then also Wayman's kindness, where it comes down to nothing matters, we can do whatever we want, so be kind.
It's the happy medium.
And it's a message that we definitely needed in 2022 and just in the 2020s in general, because everybody is so mean all the time. It's like, why not be kind? What do you lose from being kind? My God. This message of radical kindness, and, you know, they kept through it. All through the movie, all through award season. I appreciated so much when the Daniels took the time to use their platform to say drag does not hurt anybody, because they are right. Kind of makes me wish there'd been a little more drag in the film, but, you know, there's enough camp in Jobu that I'm sure drag queens are going to have a field day with her.
Yeah.
Like, I can absolutely see the white goddess dress being Somebody's gonna make a full techno remix of the bagel song.
Who's to say they haven't already done it?
If they have, I'd love to see it. So, I'm sure I don't have to ask, but is the Force with everything everywhere all at once?
Indeed it is.
Absolutely.
It is unanimous. I love democracy. Do either of you have things you want to plug this week, or Grady, do you just want to do the Darth Centurions
No,
thing
I
again?
actually have another thing I want to plug. Again, not my own thing, but something that has a connection to what we're talking about. If anyone hasn't read Gene Yang's miniseries, Superman Smashes the Klan, I highly recommend it. It's based on a radio storyline from the Superman radio show that caused so many Klan members' children to ask them awkward questions that Klan membership plummeted for something like a decade because of Superman. How awesome is
As
that?
they should.
So yeah, Superman Smashes the Klan, Gene
That's
Yang.
incredible. And Shamila, is your GoFundMe for recovering still going?
Yeah, it's still going.
For those of you who may not know, Shamila was the victim of a scam targeting disabled people looking for work and lost quite a bit of money as a result. We're trying to help her get back the funds that she lost. And you can check out my YouTube channel, La Femme Fictionale, for feminist media critiques. Find me on Patreon, Twitter, and Instagram at Femme Fictionale, and on TikTok at FictionaleFemme. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls, one beat synth-pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period the band. To support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility.
Because of my Oopsie-Doodle, we are not going to be rolling the chance cube on this episode, because I now feel I owe you all an actual degree 5. So, with that in mind, let's go to the degree 5 list, see what fits my standards, and we are going to go with The Handmaiden from 2016.
Nice.
Stay safe, stay beautiful, happy Pride, and may the Force be with you.